G'day, welcome back to the workshop. Today we are looking at Sutton Locomotive Works Class 25 Diesel. Now Mike, these not only look amazing, but they sound even more amazing.
They certainly do. So this is, the third version of the Class 25 we've seen over the last few years. It started in 2020 with the Helden 00 gauge model. Then most recently, most people might remember, just recently we've had the Bachmann 00 gauge model.
We have.
It's arriving in the shops now. But this is the third and arguably the most refined choice there is for a Class 25 for 4mm scale.
Well, I mean, look, just at first glance, they look impressive. I mean, look at all the pipe work around the bogies. I mean, it screams out detail. The thing that I like most of all is you can see through the grills behind the driving cab.
Well, that's actually a really key point for me with these, is actually that the Class 25 we've got in front of us now, everything about it is another level refined from what we've seen before on any other product or model of the Class 25. Now again, long-term readers or long-term viewers may remember we covered the Sutton Locomotive Works Class 24 back in 2020 as well. And that is the best model you can buy of a Class 24 for 4mm scale. And I keep saying 4mm scale because they are available ready to run with either 00 gauge, EM or P4 wheel sets pre-fitted from SLW.
That's amazing. That's actually a very good value for money, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Now, there's lots of different price variations in there for those features, but what you've got here is an incredibly comprehensive package.
Right. So talk to me about what makes these locomotives so wonderfully detailed and, more importantly, what's powering them.
Okay, so in terms of the detail, you've already touched on the grills. You've got the etched grills, but they've got such a fine etching on them that you can see a second layer of etching behind them inside the body as well. You've also got a fully detailed engine block inside. You've got etched grills across the cant rail. You've then got, going even further, you've got all extra components on top of the roof as well. So you've got different exhaust components depending on the type of Class 25 it is, the period it belongs to. Mm-hmm. On the end, you've got, again, custom details to different locos. So you've got different types of buffer beam detail on them. You've got some here being fitted with the miniature snowplows as well. And you've got choices for those depending on the delivery period as whether they're finished in black or in yellow to suit the particular locomotive style.
Well, they do look incredible. I mean, just from here, looking at them just casually, you can definitely see how different they all are. Now, all the livery samples that we've got here in front of us, is that the only type of liveries that they're producing, or are there more?
And there are a few more liveries within this collection as well. So there's a different version of Tamworth Castle, for example, which a lot of people will recognise as being known as the ice cream van version, where it had wrap-around yellow ends and BR blue sides. But the specific version we've got at Tamworth Castle here on the layout as well is another version with yet more different details on it as well. They've actually gone to the length of modelling it with the cleaned-up cab front at one end, because it had some modification. It had the headboard bracket removed and also the lamp bracket removed, so you've got a very clean face at one end of Tamworth Castle, one end only, and it's also got the correct head codes for one of the tours that it ran at the very end of its career as well.
Now, we said this before at the very beginning, they not only look incredible, but they sound amazing. Talk to me about the sound profile that's hidden behind the body.
Well, the sound profile, which you'll hear on this video, is just incredible. It sounds exactly like a real Class 25.
It's actually one of the loudest profiles I think I've ever heard for any model, almost ever.
Yeah, that's right. But it's not just loud. So there's differences for me between just a loud sound profile and a loud sound profile with quality with it. I've noticed with these sound profiles as well, no matter how far you push the volume, you don't get any distortion, you don't get any breaking up of specific sounds, where with some sound profiles, if you start to really push them to the limit of what the speakers will do, you get a little bit of crackle, you get a bit of chatter when you come to the horn sounds or things like that, but there is none of that on these Class 25s.
Well, this has a lot of resonance, hasn't it?
It does, yeah. So it's a Zimmo Plux 22 decoder that powers everything inside the model. That works through a pair of speakers which are inside there as well for the sound-fitted versions. The sound profile has been thoroughly researched by Sutton Locomotive Works to actually authentically recreate every step of operating a Class 25. So if you use the manual as they come with, it's actually got a full breakdown of how the driver would drive one of these as well. So you get this lovely manual inside the book with the model, and it goes through literally every step of the turn of a driver starting up the process from opening the cab door, putting the key in, checking the fire extinguishers with the bell ringing. It's got all the startup process, and then even once you've got the engine running, of which there are different ways of getting it running through cold start, warm start as well, you've also got the option to put the power handle into the on position as well, which changes the engine settings on the Class 25 to give it a slightly higher rev.
This is where the value for money really starts to appear, when you get models of this caliber not only look good and perform well, but sound incredible. You can see why they're valued in the ways that they are.
Oh, totally, yeah. I mean, the Class 24 that Sutton Locomotive works, again, going back to that previous model they did, the sound quality on that was just outstanding. It was better than everything else in the market at the time. And somehow, and I'm not quite sure how, but they've even been able to trump that with what they've done with the 25. And I think it's about the details they put into the sound profile as well. It goes far beyond just being a model that you switch on and drive around, delay out and go, that sounds nice. It does literally everything you want it to do. And more than you didn't want it to do, because you didn't know that the Loco did it.
Hence why you got the handles.
Absolutely, because I mean, the sound profile is very comprehensive on these. So I mean, there's 28 different sound functions of these. I've got a list in front of me because it is that comprehensive, and I'll forget something if I don't mention them. So it's got the classics of lighting on and off on function 0, engine sounds on off from function 1, active brakes on function 2, so you can actually control the braking of the Loco by dabbing function 2 on and off. You've then got multi-function horns, so depending on the speed and the direction, you get different types of horns.
Love that.
If I remember right, I think there's 36 different horn sounds in one of these.
Actually, 6.
Yes, because of all the different speed-related horns that are within them as well. You've got coasting mode, which is a great feature of a Zimo decoder. You can switch on number 6, and it sets into coasting mode, so the engine cuts off from making engine noise to coasting. But there is another way of doing that as well with the throttle. So the throttle's so sensitive on these as well. If you change back by 1 speed step, it'll go from making an exhaust sound to the coasting sound.
Yeah, wow.
And so they're really, really responsive decoders in these as well. But equally, if you go back up 1 speed step, having gone back down 1, keeps the engine back in as well.
Yes.
You've also got a light engine mode, which changes the lighting functions as well as the way the locomotive responds to throttle inputs. So in light engine mode, it'll accelerate faster than within a train mode formation on here as well. You've got different buffering sequences as well to operate how it buffers up and makes the coupling sounds. You've got flange squeal, which is speed related as well. Then you go through all the detailed things like cab doors opening and closing, driver checks, brake changeover switches, handbrake wheels, steam heat boiler operational locomotives for those with the steam heat boiler in them. You've got cab vocals as well, so you can have the cab crew communicating with each other from the cab. And you've got a selection of phrases you can pick from CV values as well, so it's not just you've got one guy saying squeeze up or something like that. You've got multiple phrases you can bring out. You've got environmental sound as well, which can be activated, so you can have the sound of dogs barking, you can have general sounds, or if you've got a seaside layout, you can all have seagulls as well making noise on one of these. So they really have gone into a real rich tapestry of sounds.
They really have pushed the boundaries. This is actually more like the real thing, but just in miniature form, isn't it?
Exactly, that's right, yeah. And then I haven't finished yet either, because there's also, as well as having all the throttle-powered changes to the sound scheme, so like, for example, if you turn the throttle up, it makes the engine sound, you turn it down, it changes to coasting. Within the throttle scheme as well, if you ramp it up to speed step 50 as soon as you want to set off, they'll give you a really high power load to the Loco as it accelerates away, whereas if you give it 1 speed step at a time, it'll just gradually increase the throttle. And then there's another way of getting the throttle inputs from it as well, which is actually completely manual power operation of the throttle. So you change over to speed lock, which gives you a throttle control, it gives you function button control over the engine sounds. So then you can set the different power handles using functions 23, 24, 25 and 26 between a quarter, half, 3/4 and full power. And then there's also the volume selection as well, where without having to go into CV changes, on function 28 you can cycle through 7 different levels of volume on these as well to decide what volume you want. So how you were saying how it's very loud earlier on.
Yeah.
So if you just select function 28 and keep selecting function 28, it will cycle round the volume options which are presets into it.
Well, look, that sounds like the most comprehensive model, not only in the details of what we can see, but also in the functionality and the sound. So that is incredible. I'm sure there's a lot of people there who would love to get their hands on one.
Yes, me too.
But importantly, you want your hands on everything to do with the railway, let's be honest.
True.
But how much are they going to sell for, and when are they available?
Right, so prices start from £210 and they rise to £370. At the point where you're at £370, you've then got P4 wheel sets pre-fitted, you've got a factory fit Stay Alive, you've got the Zimo sound in it,
Full bells and whistles.
Full bells and whistles.
Yeah.
But there's options in between those for what you can do in terms of upgrading your Loco as well. So have a look at the SLW website for all the details on that. And they are, well, the first batch is in stock now and available to add to your collection.
Well, if you love the Class 25s as much as Mike does, I want to have a few of these on your layout that I can guarantee that with the detail these have, you're going to want to have several of them, really. You can read a full review written by Mike over here in HM207, our September edition of Hornby magazine, on sale right now, and you can see much more on KeaModelWorld.com. In the meantime, though, thank you, and we'll see you next time.